There you go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to She Blurs Podcast. Today's guest is William Gensburger. Did I say it right? I did.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Thank you.
Hi, William. Thank you for coming on my show today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
I'm a psychotic. Oh no, I'm not. Just an author, a parent. Used to be a book publisher for some other writers. I've edited magazines and put out a magazine at one point for a couple of years called Books and Pieces magazine, which is still out there. But and basically, my newest one is a murder mystery called Texas Dead, which somebody suggested today. Actually, they thought, oh, I wonder if it was about those mass killings in Texas. I'm thinking, oh,
Yeah.
no, no. I named it Texas Dead because on Amazon there's another book called Dead Texas. And
Oh,
I thought,
wow.
well, I don't want to be listed there. So, but it's not about that. It's a fictional novel, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, nice. So, when did you first realize you wanted to be an author?
Probably about age 18 or 19, and I've always written different things. Never really seriously considered it as a career because I was always told, well, it's hard, you'll never make a living doing it. So I did everything else. I learned graphic design, I learned to publish stuff, editing, and done a whole bunch of different jobs. But eventually I was always writing and writing. And finally one day it was like, you know what, it's time. Let's get it
Wow,
going.
that's amazing. So, do you still do graphic design, like on the side, like every now and then?
Yeah, I do it. I design book covers, and I'll do advertise. Did a lot of advertising for different companies, community newspapers, and it's a lot of fun. I'm very proficient with Photoshop and InDesign, so it's good. It's a good little skill to have because it does pay bills.
Definitely. So, where do you get your ideas from when you think of your stories?
Pretty much, I'm a very curious person, and I like to research a lot of things. So I might read an article, or I might see a news thing, or I might overhear somebody in a restaurant. I go, oh, that's kind of interesting. Um, and it really depends. There's no one place. I actually, for a long time, thought I would be focusing more on science fiction, and I love science fiction. But it's a different beast altogether, and I just found it was easier to do mainstream fiction and mysteries than to sit down and try to reinvent it. In fact, I have in my Distant Rumors book back there, which is an anthology of 16 short stories about life and death. That's been out for a couple of years. You can get it in a lot of bookstores. But one of the stories in there is two of the stories are sci-fi. So it's something I like to dabble in as well. So there's not really one thing that generates interest. I just find life is a fascinating experience, and you sort of go with the flow.
Oh, nice. So, what inspired you to write your novel, Texas Dead and the Distant Rumor book that
Well,
you?
the Distant Rumors were stories that I've written over the years, and a lot of them I had shelved. I would say probably about 25% of the book were older stories that I revisited. And when I decided to put out an anthology, I said, I needed to make some more stories, and that's when I really just focused gung ho on that.
Wow.
But prior to that, I had put out a book called Homo Idiotus, which is a collection of editorials that were published in a California community newspaper. And they tackled different little themes. It was sort of a little edgy, sarcastic look at things in life, like just quirks. Like, I'll give you an example. Why in men's bathrooms is the urinal so low? Tall men don't like that. It's a little discriminatory. Anyway, it's a humorous look at things, and you go, oh yeah, yeah. Um, Another one is called "Didn't I See You on Cops?" Everybody apparently has this fascination of being arrested at some point. So it's a quirky little thing. So that was the first one that I sort of put together after doing the editorials, and
Oh, okay.
yeah. So and now with this one just started out because the lead character in this book, Mackenzie Michaels, is a glamorous sort of a celebrity type detective. She looks her best, and she actually had been percolating for about 10 years. The first couple of lines, in fact, of the story, the novel, are not new. They've been sitting in a file, and I keep coming back to it going, I really want to do something with this. And what came about was a friend of mine who's a best-selling author, J.C. Ryan. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's out of Australia. He's got maybe 50-something books. He and I were chatting one day about co-writing a book, and we were bouncing ideas back and forth.
Wow.
Long story short, it didn't work out for him because of work commitments that he had. So I sat down and I thought, you know what, I can pull out Maxie from the bin, and now I think I've got a really good, strong lead character who's a female, and that also meant having to do a lot of insightful research into how would she act, and of course checking with my wife, because don't write a female part if you're not going to have somebody really fact checking you. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So can you tell our listeners about your Books and Pieces magazine, like a little bit about it?
Well, Books and Pieces magazine was really was a monthly magazine. I stopped doing it a couple of years ago when I started focusing on writing. Each issue would just have an interview with an author, would have an article, short stories that people would send in, and these were writers that I'd be working with as well. Not the interview, but the people sending in their stories. So they had gone through edits and revisions, and some of them were very, very good. Wow. And I would put it together it was a digital format, and then also available as a print format. But we've had some really good interviews. Peter James, who's a best-selling UK crime author, fantastic writer. In fact, I love the style of his books, so I try to make Texas Dead go at about a similar kind of pace. Robert Sawyer, I don't know if you ever saw a TV show called Flash Forward on ABC some years back, where 7 minutes everything sort of stopped, planes fell out of the sky. It was a good series. Yeah, a lot of people saw it. Well, he was the author of that book, and the book is really good. He's of course #1 sci-fi guru. He has more stuff out there than I can dream of. But I had the good fortune to actually do an interview, and felt very humbled by that. And so it was fun. It was a good way to meet people. It was a good way to learn to express things differently. It was a good way to help new authors, and get me also in the mindset of, you know what, if I don't sit down and start doing these novels that I want to do now, posthumously won't be too good. So.
Wow, that's awesome. So can you give our listeners like a brief summary of your newest novel, Texas Dead?
Okay. Well, Texas Dead is, it starts out with a murder. And it's an unusual murder because there have been a string of murders. It's set in Corpus Christi, Texas. There have been a string of murders, and they all have a similar trait. Everybody's been shot in the back of the head. This murder, though, not the same MO. And so Maxie, the primary detective, and her Jamaican partner, Kobe, have to now go and figure out what's going on. And they have hintings that it's bigger than just killings. I mean, they're thinking possibly big gang infiltration or possibly more. They come across a relative of the dead body that I open with. He becomes an integral part of the story. So the three of them are now caught up in things that are a bit out of their control as they try to solve this. And by the time you get midway to the book, it's, I think, pretty fast paced. I think you can't put it down at that point, which is what most people have told me. And by the time you get to the end, you will love the characters because they're very, very deeply explored. There's a lot of humor in it. In fact, Maxie and Kobe are constantly little bit of bickering, but it's fun, very, very fun. And it was a delight to write it too. But by the time you get to the end, you'll feel satisfied, and you'll want book 2, which is in process right now. It's overall, I think you'll find it's a satisfying read, and not intricate, and not one with an unnecessary filler. Yeah. You know how a lot of books you'll read and there's a chapter and then it's like, no, I don't want to read this one. Get back to where we were at. Right? Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you said there's a next book after that. Do you have a name for it, or do you want to tell everybody now, or do you
Absolutely.
want to wait?
Oh no, I'll tell you now, especially now that I found out about the Texas Dead thing. It's called American Dead,
Oh,
and it is not set in Texas. It's actually set in Los Angeles, and the series is a series of three.
oh.
Um, and as I was joking with someone else, he said, "Well, what happens if the book doesn't do?" I said, "Well, then it's going to be a series of two." Um, but it's going to be a series of three, and it's set in Los Angeles. It is unlike this book, which takes a good amount of time to get you into the characters.
Mhm.
You will know them so well by the end of this book. I don't need to revisit that as much. So book two is really jam-packed plot, and there's actually three plots running at the same time.
Okay.
And I'll give you a hint on one of it. One of the themes is revenge.
Oh,
So
that's good. That's
yeah.
nice.
And by the way, the books are, a teenager, young kid can read the book. I think I only have 2 swear words in it, beginning with S. And there is no graphic anything, including no graphic killing or any of that stuff. And the reason for that is just everybody seems to overdo that. And I wanted it really solidly based on character and story. And and I think it works. I hope it works.
That's amazing. I'll have to check those out. So, so who are a few of your favorite authors, and have any of them inspired any of your novels?
Well, Peter James for mystery he's a very good mystery writer that gets you into it very early on and keeps you turning the page. He's very well known, lesser known, but a very prolific writer who's I don't know if you heard of him, Mike Wells. Mike Wells has a series of books. I don't remember how many he's at right now, but it's got to be at least over 20 something. When I was editing and helping writers, he has one book series called Lust, Money, and Murder. And the first 5 pages of the first book is a prologue. And the prologue was so powerful, I asked him if I could copy it and hand it to writers, with obviously giving him credit. Because in the first 5 pages, he grabbed you in, developed the setting, developed the characters, grabbed your interest with the plot. And it was like at the end of that prologue, it's like, wow, no, keep going. One of the best openings that I've seen. So definitely I would put Mike Wells in there. There are so many. Frank, I used to love science fiction. I'm a big science fiction fan. Probably my number one influence is Philip K. Dick. And we see so many of his books have been adapted into movies now. But back when I was into it, and back when he was in his heyday, he's not alive anymore. He was one of those authors that would write a volume of material and just barely eke a living out. And sometimes you'd wonder, like he would have a character that would buy horse meat at the pet store, and the implication was that they were too poor, so they brought it home and they cooked it. His life was very, very complicated, but he was the guy that asked the question about the definition of reality. And I don't know if are you familiar with Philip Dick at all?
No.
Do you know the movie Blade Runner, Total Recall with Tom Cruise,
Yeah.
Minority Report with what's his name, Mr. Mars?
Colin Farrell? Colin Farrell?
No, that was in And then what was the other one? Oh, Adjustment Bureau was Matt Damon. That's right.
Yeah.
Just to name a few. So I mean, these are just some of his stories. Oh, and Man in the High Castle, the
I didn't
Amazon
know
series.
he did those.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
I
his
did
whole
not
premise
know.
was, what if something, what if something disappeared? Like, what if you went into your house and the door was gone? There was just a note that said door. Weird sort of what if alternative realities, and they were fun, very, very fun to read. And so he was a big influence because he would do a very streamlined story that he would give you that you could just grab it and just digest it. Robert Heinlein, obviously, and then of course the classics, Michener and John Grisham, Mario Puzo. I think I still got a Puzo sitting up here. Puzo wrote The Godfather, and I like Fool's Die. It's a good book. There's so many. It's hard to say, but each time you read one, there's a little bit of that you sort of take and yeah, as a writer, I think you sort of hold it in there and go, yeah, I like the way that was done, or I like the turn of that phrase, and maybe I should use something like that. So,
Yeah. Wow. That's
yeah,
amazing. I
bookstores are
want to
fun.
oh, I want to thank you so much, William, for coming on my show today and allowing me to speak with you about your novels.
Thank you. My pleasure.
You have a great day.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye bye.
I want to thank everyone for listening to my interview with William. If you would like to purchase any of his novels, and if you would like to contact him about his novels or anything that he has going on, you can refer to this link that's tinkering below. It is mrwriter.com and it's tinkering below. So you can just go ahead and type it in the web address. Anyway, excuse me. I wanted to thank you all so much for supporting my podcast once again. I see quite a few of you all viewing the videos. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Feel free to like and comment and share. If you want to be a guest, feel free to email me. Do not DM me. Email me at sheblurb@hotmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting me. Have a great day.